In this video, we're going to talk about how to factor trinomial when the first term starts with a coefficient of 1, or a equals 1. So what we should already know in this, before this lesson, is that factoring an expression is the opposite of multiplying polynomials. So we're taking a product and we're going back to the factors. Factoring using the GCF results in a monomial times a polynomial. We talked about that earlier. A trinomial is a polynomial with 3 terms. When you multiply 2 binomials, the result is a trinomial. We learned that last unit. Descending order is when a polynomial is written in order with the term with the highest exponent first all the way down to the smallest exponent. A standard form for a quadratic trinomial is ax squared plus bx plus c. And when a equals 1, all of our trinomials today are just going to start with x squared plus bx plus c. So since factoring is the opposite of multiplying or distributing, factoring a trinomial results in 2 binomials. So we're going to start on the inside and work to the outside. But first we're going to quickly review how to multiply 2 binomials. So if we have x plus 3 times x minus 5, remember we put x plus 3 across the top and x minus 5 down the side. X times x gives us x squared. 3 times x is 3x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. And 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. So the polynomial form of x plus 3 times x minus 5 would be x squared. Combine your like terms here. 3x minus 5x gives you minus 2x minus 15. Alright, since factoring is the opposite of multiplying polynomials and we use a box, think about how you got the numbers inside of the box. The first term in each binomial, so if I look at the first terms in each binomial, must have the variable. Okay, notice each term here has an x in it. The second term, the plus 3 and the minus 5, must be a constant. So that's numbers only. Must be a constant, numbers only. So if I talk about a trinomial here, it's going to be a variable x plus or minus some constant times a variable x plus or minus a second constant. So C there stands for constant, which is just the number. Okay. There's a strategy for finding out the numbers that go inside of the binomial. You may use the box to help you figure it out, or you may make a product slash sum table. No matter what strategy you use, you always want to check first for a GCF. So before you even start factoring any other method, you want to make sure you check for a GCF. All right. Example 1. Completely factor x squared plus 8x plus 15. So if I look at these terms, x squared plus 8x plus 15, is it in descending order? It already is, so we can just copy that down. Is there a GCF? X squared plus 8x plus 15? No, there is no GCF. The GCF would be 1, so we don't need to worry about factoring that out. All right, method 1 is to find a product and sum table. So what we want to do is we want to figure out what A, B, and C are. Well, A is the first number to the 1. B is the coefficient on the second term, which would be 8. And C is the constant, so that would be 15. Okay. We want to have the factors of 15, and we want them to add to be 8. So we want factors of C that add to be B. All right, so factors of 15. We could have 15 and 1, or we can have 5 and 3. So 15 and 1, their sum would be 16. That's not 8, so that one's not going to work. Okay. 5 and 3, their sum is 8. Hey, that's what's going to work. So that's your product and sum table. So which pair of factors has a sum equal to B? That would be 5 and 3. So we write the factors. Remember, we start with the x, and then we take the plus 5, and then the x plus 3. And that will give us, if we multiply those out using the grid method, we'd end up getting x squared plus 8x plus 15. Okay. So again, you're looking for factors of C that add to be B, or that middle term. All right, method 2 is the grid method, and I like this one actually a little bit better. We place the first term in the upper left and the last term in the bottom right of the grid. So the first term is x squared. We're going to put that in the upper left. And then we're going to put the 15 in the lower right. Figure out how to make these values using multiplication. Write the factors along the top and the left side of the grid, complete the rest of the table, and check your work. So I know in order to make an x squared, I have to have an x, and I have to have an x. Okay. 15, I know I can make it using 15 and 1, or I can make it using 5 and 3. So if I put a plus 5 here and a plus 3 here, 5 times x is 5x, 3 times x is 3x, and if I combine those, that's going to give me my 8x. This is more like a trial and error method. If your first grid doesn't work, you cross that grid out and you try it again. So my two factors are going to be along the edges now. I have an x plus 5 and an x plus 3. And that's what my two factors are. All right, practice problem number 1. So the same idea here. Okay, what I want you to do is I want you to take whichever method you like, and I would like you to go ahead and factor 10 plus 7g plus g squared. I am going to give you the hint, though. We do want to write this in descending order, g squared plus 7g plus 10. So you work on that one. Go ahead and pause your video, and then we'll go over the answer in class tomorrow. All right, example number 2, we're going to completely factor negative 9c plus c squared plus 20. So we first need to write this in descending order. So we're going to start with c squared minus 9c plus 20. Is there a GCF in all of those terms? No, there is not. So then we're going to identify A, B, and C. My A is 1. My B is a negative 9. Don't forget there's a negative 9 in there. And then a positive 20. All right, so then I want to think about my factors of 20. Okay, so now here's where it's a little bit interesting. You have to consider positive and negative factors. So, of course, I have 1 and 20. Okay, if I take those together, right, my sum would be 21. I need the sum of negative 9, so those aren't going to work. I could use 4 and 5. Their sum is 9. That's getting a little warmer, but still we need a negative 9. Well, here's where you get negative 4 and negative 5. Negative 4 times negative 5 gives me 20, but their sum gives me a negative 9. So those are the two factors I'm going to need. So which pair of factors has a sum equal to b? Sum equal to 9, that would be negative 4 and negative 5. So then the two factors here for this example that I'd have to write out would be x minus 4 times x minus 5. Okay. All right. So grid method, same idea. You would put your c squared. Oh, sorry, these should be c's, not x's, because we had a c in our original problem. So you'd have to put c squared here. You'd need to put 20 here. And then it's a trial and error. So I'd have a c and a c. I already know my two factors, so negative 4 goes here, negative 5 goes here. And again, it's a trial and error. So this might be a good place to start, and this might be a good way to check your work. All right, we have another practice question. So we want to make sure that we factor 2k to the third minus 20k squared plus 50k. You can use the method of your choice. Give you a hint, though, don't forget there might be a GCF. So if I take a look at all of these terms, in fact there is, we want to pull out that k before you get started. So your final answer, you're going to leave the k in front, and then you should have two binomials. See if you can figure out what those binomials are. All right, example number 3. Turn the paper over. I have x squared plus 13x plus minus 48, and it's already written in descending order, x squared plus 13x minus 48. Is there a GCF? No, not in this case. Okay, The first thing we're trying to do here is we're trying to find factors of negative 48 that add up to be 13. So we can try first 4 and negative 12. If I add those together, that's going to give me a negative 8. That's not 13. All right, we could try negative 4 and positive 12. And again, if you're looking for a negative here, don't forget one of your terms has to be negative and the other has to be positive. That's giving me a positive 8. That's also not going to work. All right, well, what about 6 and negative 8? That gives me negative 2 of the sum. That's not going to work. All right, I could try negative 6 and 8. That's going to give me a positive 2. Also not going to work. All right, negative 3 and 16 would be another option. And if I add those together, lo and behold, I get a positive 13. So those are the factors that I want. All right, so the pair of factors would be a negative 3 and a positive 16. So the two factors here would be x minus 3 and x plus 16. Okay. So method 2 was pretty much a better option for checking. I think this gives you a better idea of how to find your factors. All right, so I've got x minus 3 and x plus 16. X times x gives me x squared. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. X times 16 is 16x, and negative 3 times 16 is negative 48. Check along my diagonal, and sure enough, these two factors work out just fine. All right, practice question number 3. We have 64mx minus 160x plus 8m squared x using your method of choice. Again, don't forget to check for the GCF, and don't forget to write it in descending order. So again, we'll go through this one in class tomorrow, but I want you to try it on your own, pause your video, give it a try, and then go on to example 4. All right, example 4, last example for today. All right, we are going to completely factor 17dg plus d squared minus 60g squared. Okay, so first term should be squared with a leading coefficient of 1. So what we want to do is we want to rearrange this. This is going to be d squared. All right, the second term should contain both variables, plus 17dg. And the last term is your remaining third term. So this is going to be minus 60g squared. Okay, is there a GCF in this case? No, there is not. Okay, so we don't need to factor that out. All right, product and sum table works pretty much the same way. Your A is going to be 1, your B is 17, and your C is negative 60. So we want factors of negative 60 that add up to 17. So if we try negative 6 and 10, of course that's not going to work. That's going to give us a 4, but we need 17. All right, negative 20 and 3. That's going to give me a negative 17. You might start to notice, after you've done this a couple times, if you get the opposite version of what you're looking for, you switch the signs of your factors. So we make this one a positive 20, we make that one a negative 3. You're going to end up with the term that you're looking for. So that's going to be a 17. And again, there's some extra spaces here because it may very well take you more than 3 tries to find the correct two factors. So the two factors that we want here are 20 and negative 3. So then our final answer, okay, is going to be, the first term was d squared, so we're going to have a d plus 20g times d minus 3g. And again, we can check our work using the grid. So if we put d and plus 20g here, and d minus 3g here, multiply those two together, we have d squared. Multiply those two together, gives us 20dg. Multiply these two together, gives us negative 3dg. And multiply these two together, we have negative 60g squared. Combine like terms along the diagonal, and sure enough, that gives us d squared plus 17g minus 60g squared. So our two factors, d plus 20g times d minus 3g. You do have one more practice problem for today, and it's already set up for you. So again, pause your video one more time, and we will go over the answers to the practice questions in class tomorrow.